No. Let me.
Jesus Christ.
Can you see me now?
Yes.
Hi, Carson. How you doing?
Can you at least put the Star Wars hat on over it? Because it'd be really funny.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Carson, because this is what my natural hair looks like. If anyone's ever, we're already recording, by the way. If you've ever wondered why I wear a hat, it's because my hair is so much to handle. This is my natural flowing hair.
I've lost.
So, if you did not know, last week's podcast, which was recorded on Wednesday of last week, we haven't recorded for a week and a half. Um, okay, cool. I placed a bet that Hollow Knight Silksong would shadow drop on the direct that they had. And so it did not.
You think? Do
It
you
did not
think?
shadow drop. You know what the sad part is, Carson? It releases in 4 days. Silksong releases in 4 days, and my
You
dumbass is sitting
poor
here in a
Cora.
pink wig.
I'm gonna make this my new profile picture for you. Hold on, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's funny because we did not talk about anything for this episode in advance. Obviously, we already know what the topics are.
Oh yeah.
So I was just gonna make this the cold open because I didn't even have any news unless you did. By the way, we had a bunch of technical difficulties before starting recording. Only the fact that you could not see me was a joke. Everything else was a genuine technical problem that we had.
I
This was a
figured.
joke, though. I wanted to get your reaction on camera, so I was hiding it until we got all the other technical problems figured out.
Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? Oh no, I don't take responsibility for any of this. This is on you. You made the
No,
stupid
I'm not
deal.
blaming you.
You made the
I
stupid bet.
I placed a bet against myself that if Hollow Knight Silksong did not shadow drop, I'd dress up as something. So legitimately, an hour and a half ago, probably, I ran to the local party store and grabbed this whole thing because I have a wig cap underneath, $25 for the joke. I invested.
You just invested $25 for a fucking joke?
Well, so here's the thing. All my friends, I actually was gonna wear a dress, but my friend who has a wig and a dress that would fit me, they live like an hour and a half away, and they're not visiting for the next like 2 weeks, and so timing just didn't work out. But I thought at least I had to hold up I'm a man of my word, and yeah,
Well, currently you're a woman of your word, but
true. True. Thank you. These things are not comfortable, by the way, at all. But I am gonna wear it for the entire podcast. So
you do know
strap
who
in.
you're talking to, right? When you say wigs aren't comfortable, you do understand who you're talking to, right?
That's
The person
true.
who has worn numerous wigs for numerous shows and has been uncomfortable in every single one of them.
See, here's the thing though, and I could be stretching here, but I'm pretty sure the wigs that you've worn have been higher quality than a $25 party store.
Oh, absolutely. Oh no, yeah, absolutely. Like they were like $100, and they were for like the actual purpose of we have a professional
Yeah,
hairstylist
this
to
is
make
made out
them
of the
look
stuff that's
nicer.
killing our ozone layer. Like that's what this wig is made out of. This
And what's
this wig is
what's
this
funny is
wig is,
after this, you're
wig is
never gonna use
made
it
in
again.
China by children. Like I'm sorry. Like this is not a high quality wig.
What's funny for me is that you're never gonna use it again. Like this is it.
So it's funny you say that. Today I have 4 shorts that I need to record.
And now you're
All
recording
4,
them in the
and this
wig.
is me tacking on to that. This was not a part of the original bet, but all 4 of those shorts I am wearing the wig for because I gotta get my $25 worth. And if you're watching this because I told you to find out why I'm wearing the wig on our shorts, because that's the plan. If you want to figure out why I'm wearing the wig, you have to watch the podcast. Hi, this is it. Hollow Knight Silksong did not shadow drop. Watch last week's episode to hear about that.
Fucking
It
moron.
will be coming in 4 days. Again, I want to stress that. I was off by 2 weeks. And it's
You could have been
frustrating.
off. You could have been off by 2 hours. It still doesn't matter. It didn't drop the day that you said it was going to drop. You're still wrong regardless.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, and I'm wearing a
Oh
pink
my
wig now.
god. I Let's just get this started. Let's just how is anime NYC, by the way?
Oh, do you wanna do that for our actual, like, cold open?
This isn't an actual cold open? I feel like this is at this point.
So yeah, if you did not know, last week we recorded extraordinarily early, because I was at Anime NYC. I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. This is a convention that I want to go. Excuse me, I want to go back to every year. And I know it's gonna be hard for you to keep me seriously, but you're gonna have
I
to get used to it.
I'm
There's
not
gonna
looking at
be a 2 hours. We have 7 episodes of television to talk about, Carson. I hope you realize that.
I'm gonna be
Two
looking
episodes
at
of
the
Peacemaker
I'm
and
gonna look at
5 episodes of Twisted Metal. So you
I'm gonna
better
be looking
strap
I'm
in.
gonna be looking at the IMDb page. Hold on.
Uh-huh. But yeah, so I went to Anime NYC. I got to see a lot of world premieres. That was one of the coolest parts. So I got to see the world premiere, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity English dub. I got to see A Rock is a Lady's Modesty English dub. I got to see multiple trailers at the Netflix panel. I got to see a full episode of Star Wars Visions.
Mm,
The first full episode. That was probably the biggest highlight for me. Was that just because it felt so special and so like I'm a huge Star Wars fan, obviously. If you've seen the podcast before, I have a Star Wars hat on like pretty much every single week. And so getting to see that, and obviously one of my other big loves, anime. Um, I loved season one and season two, and now we're going back to the Japanese studios. And you can definitely feel that. You can definitely tell that you're going back to Japan with the studios that they've chosen for this. Um, let's see, what else did I do that was fun? Spent a lot of money, got a lot of freebies, but spent a lot of money.
Dropped money on a
I went
wig.
very broke. Um, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I can't remember if we talked about this, Carson, but this is the probably the funniest one. Is I said I went to the Netflix panel and they had a bunch of trailers for like the Netflix anime that are up and coming.
Yeah.
You would have thought that the president of the United States of America was speaking at this panel.
Oh,
I kid you not. The security at the Netflix panel was like, I went to the Star Wars Visions panel and I went to other big panels. They had signs that said like no photo, no video at all the world premieres and stuff because obviously they don't want that leaking on the internet. You're the first people to be able to see this. Some of this stuff isn't coming out for months. Like Star Wars Visions is like October, if I remember correctly. We saw the first full episode. So obviously they want to keep that locked down. But like Netflix only gave us trailers that they then dropped on the internet the next day. And like, I could not over exaggerate enough how insane the security was. Like, they didn't like badge you coming in necessarily with like metal detectors, but like
sure.
they had upper balconies on both sides.
Sure.
They legitimately on each side probably had about 20 to 25 people on each side, black suits, like staring down at you, like hands crossed behind their back. Like there was people in suits going up and down aisles. They had the signs, but all the panels had the signs. But like it was insane. Legitimately, you would have thought that they were showing you the Holy Grail or that like someone was like, I get it. This is Netflix and they have a lot of money in this, but every single thing that they gave us in that panel dropped within an hour to 2 hours after that panel. Star Wars Visions, which mind you is a Disney property, they didn't they told you not to record and all that. They had the signs, but like there wasn't snipers in the goddamn towers.
It's look, it's a precaution, and I feel like Netflix cares a lot more. But it's like you said, they dropped like 2 days later, so I don't think it really mattered that much. I think it's just Netflix and their persona, especially when it comes to their anime, because at the end of the day, that's like the more popular projects that Netflix can produce.
Yeah.
Like
Reasonable.
I like their original shows. I do. I like Ozark. I was okay with Narcos. I thought that was fine. I'm trying to think of other Netflix shows that I watched, but none of them like other than maybe Ozark. Maybe I think that might have been like their bread and butter of like that's great. And Stranger Things, obviously. Other than those few shows, they don't really have like a ton of live action. Their anime though, they have a
I mean,
massive
Stranger
cult
Things.
following.
Stranger Things is like the biggest thing on
Stranger
Netflix. They have
Things,
the next season coming out, I think, later this year.
Stranger Things,
I know neither
Witcher,
of us are biggest Stranger Things fans, but that's a big property.
Witcher is another
Yeah,
one that they have.
Witcher, but that
Um,
fell off because Henry Cavill left,
right,
so
and then Ozark is already over. That ended 2 years ago? It ended a while ago at this point.
well, and here's the thing. Netflix does have a lot of other original properties out there, but a lot of it's their romance stuff. You have your rom-coms, like, they had a one that came out recent there's, like, For All the Boys I Love, like, there's all that crap that not I don't wanna call it crap, like, to each their own if you enjoy that stuff. I'm a big romance reader, so, like, I can't judge, but a lot of the Netflix romances just don't really do it for me because they feel cheap. They feel like they're just made they feel like, honestly, worse versions of Hallmark movies, and that's not a high bar.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I
so
agree with you, and so that's why I'm saying their anime is a much bigger draw. Even though I'm personally not the biggest anime fan, I can even acknowledge, like, okay, people are on Netflix, that's what people are gonna flock to first
yeah.
because it's such a big draw, and they have so much of it on there now.
Well, yeah, like, technically, it's not an anime because it's made by well, I guess technically Sony is a Japanese company, but K-pop Demon Hunters is now, like, the most viewed Netflix thing ever.
Yeah.
That is technically it's an animated property. I wouldn't necessarily call it an anime. It's very Korean,
Sure,
focused,
sure.
but they also like, Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry is one of their highest watched, shows of all time as well.
Yeah.
That anime, I loved season one. Came out not that long ago. We were actually recording the podcast when that released.
Right.
They showed us the first trail or guess snippets of season two, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But again, all that stuff dropped afterwards. So I was sitting there and like, granted, I didn't know they were dropping it right after, but I don't know. I just found it so funny, like how insanely like locked down security was.
Right. Well, and here's what I will say. I think some like the Star Wars Visions part is cool. Like the fact that you got to watch an entire episode of that months before that's supposed to come out. Is it even this year? Does it come out again this
No,
year?
it is. I think, and I have the poster because they gave us all like a mini version of the poster. I have it in my room. I believe it's October like 19th or something like
Okay.
that. So it's like 2 months away.
It's
All the
still
anime
out
that I
there.
got like all the anime I got to see except for one was September. There was an
Okay.
anime that I got to see that's not coming out until spring of next year. Like it doesn't even have a release date on it. It
Right.
just said spring of next year, which is
Yeah.
months away.
Yeah.
That was Rooster Fighter. Really interesting concept, very funny, very One Punch Man like.
Sure.
And a lot of it's like comedy fighting action style.
Right.
That was another cool world premiere. If you want to hear my like actual thoughts on all these like world premieres and stuff, I know I'm like, excuse me, breezing over most of this. I did dedicated shorts for all the premieres. So there's one for the Netflix premiere. There's one for the English dub premieres. There's ones for Rooster Fighter. Go check those out on the TikTok, YouTube Shorts, like whatever. Because I gave like a little bit more in depth of my actual thoughts.
Mhm.
I will say because it's the most relevant, I feel like to the type of stuff we talk about on this podcast, and it's the only one that you've actually seen. The episode of Star Wars Visions that we got to see was definitely so there was also a video, like, I would call it a Q&A, but it wasn't interactive. It was just the director, who's a very notable director
Sure.
in the anime sphere. They had, like, a bunch of, like, predetermined questions, and it was just, like, a recorded video of him, like, going through some questions to, like,
Gotcha.
give us more context as to the episode. And you can kind of tell this is the only, like, spoiler that I'll give, just because I feel like it can be important context. They did not go into this episode to tell a story. It is very much up to your own interpretation. So if you've watched any of the other episodes of Star Wars Visions, they typically follow a pretty they're about the 15-minute. Some are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter. But
Yeah.
they typically tell a relatively self-enclosed story. Now, another thing that came out of this is we are getting not only a full spin-off show of The Ninth Jedi, we're also getting some one-episode continuations of some of people's favorite episodes from season one, which is really cool. We got to see some footage of that. We got to see some images on top of the episode that we saw, which it is a standalone. But the director mentioned that he really went out to go tell a kind of leave it up to you what you get out of the story, but it was more of a
Sure.
music video. It was more like a 15-minute long, like music video, but that does it a disservice. Like, you'll understand what I'm talking about when you watch the
Sure.
actual episode,
Sure.
but don't go in open-minded is all I'll say. It is very, very unique. Like, if you're an anime fan, and it's another, like, little bit of a spoiler. If you're a weird anime fan, you'll like it. Not weird isn't into weird things, but, like, you like more, like, conceptual, like, mind-bendy stuff, like, I think you'll
Sure.
enjoy this. If you're a big Star Wars fan who likes the, like, story elements of Star Wars, we'll see what you get out of this. I enjoyed the episode, but I got to talk to some of the people after the panel in terms of, like, the people around me,
Right.
and
Right.
it was definitely, like, mixed reception is what I'll say. Because again, it's very much a up to your own interpretation what you get out of it type of thing, but it's a sight for your eyes, like, I'll say that.
Well, I had a pretty exciting weekend while you were gone. I moved from one couch to the next. I did some paperwork. I watched some television and some films. Uh, that's about it. You were living it up in the big city, and I did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Before we get into the actual episode, which you're hosting, by the way, if you didn't know, I mhm. I stayed in a hostel. This is the first time I ever stayed in a hostel,
Yep.
and it was a decision. Knock on wood. This table is wood. Knocking on wood. I went to Otakon, had a week, went to New York City, stayed in a hostel, and went to the convention. I have still not gotten sick. I guarantee you, because I said that, I will wake up dead as a dog tomorrow. But yeah, I'm good, which is, like, surprising. I don't have a weak immune system by any means, but I'm very proud of myself for not getting sick. Um, I am running out of water though.
You're
I've been very thirsty.
that sounds like a you problem, and you probably should have done that before we started this.
I
But
did. This entire thing, Carson, was full before I sat down and hit record, and it is
I
already empty.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
I did
but
not kill enough time for you to find it, so just kick us into it.
no, I found it. You're hosting, so watch you kick us into it, buddy.
Oh, I'm hosting? Oh,
Yep.
well, okay. This is the weirdest start to an episode we've ever had because I genuinely wanted. There's
You
not even. I'm gonna tell you. There's not gonna be one of those little, like, 30-second clips at the start of this because I want the start of this podcast to
to be
just
the
be
start.
your genuine reaction to seeing the wig. He didn't know if I was even gonna follow up on it. We had zero discussion
No,
about
so
this
here's here's
beforehand.
here's what happened for today. First off, I was out till 4 a.m. last night, at Halloween Horror Nights, and videos to come out about that later on the short form content. But I am like dead tired because I also had to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I barely slept. That being said, we are here, and I forgot that any of this could genuinely be a possibility. We didn't talk beforehand. We were just like, yeah, let's
Nope.
just get on and record. Let's just do this. No communication. And thus, here we are in the most, how do I put this? Rushed, rushed, and sloppily thrown together podcast, but we're gonna do it.
You
We're,
know,
we're here.
we're here. We're having fun. And with that being said, what's up, Nimrods? It's your boys back with another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast, the only podcast where your two favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy. I am apparently your host for today's
Yalmic.
episode, Brandon, aka Parafish, here with my forever co-host.
Carson, aka Juggernaut.
And this week, we have a lot to talk about. I already kind of said it in the, I guess you can call it a cold open. We have 5 episodes of Twisted Metal and 2 episodes of Peacemaker season 2 to talk about. Before I say anything else, before we forget, I am going to give this now. Carson and myself are very much, we just like to get into things. So there is a big old spoiler warning. If you have not seen the last 5 episodes of Twisted Metal season 2 or the first 2 episodes of Peacemaker, I forgot to add timestamps to the last episode, but I am going to retroactively go and do that after recording this. And I promise there will be timestamps in the bottom of this episode, so you can click around, kind of find if you've only watched Twisted Metal, if you've only watched Peacemaker, where that is. But just know, even though we might start out with semi non spoiler, we very much have a hard time biting our tongues. So we just kind of throw ourselves into it. So there will be just spoilers throughout. We'll try to keep the spoilers contained to that section. But yeah, that is your one and only spoiler warning. We kind of already got into all of this in our mess of an intro, but before we get into that, Carson, anything else you want to say? How are you doing?
Oh God, I'm tired. When I mean I'm tired, I mean I. So getting a little into last night because I won't talk about this in the short form content. The crowds were awful. It
Well,
was
yeah,
the
you went to the
busiest.
first night of Halloween Horror
Well,
Night.
no, but
Like,
like
I don't know what.
I go every year. Like I've gone consistently every day opening night for the past 8 years. I've been there without question, without hesitation. I've been there. This is the busiest I've ever seen it. I know why it's the busiest, but the big problem is I feel like we need to actually cap off who actually shows up to the event and who I get that Universal
Well,
wants money, but there's
that's like
so
a
many people.
general that's like a general complaint that I feel like myself and a lot of people have at any event, amusement park, whatever. Like conventions is a big example. Like you've been to like MegaCon on a Saturday. Like they don't cap those tickets as much as they should.
Right.
So it unfortunately it is just due to money, and like there are like general like fire codes and stuff like that, but I feel like they push those a little to the max most of the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
but
look, it only irks me because this year, first off, there's a bunch of things that are happening Universal. I don't know if you know, but like apparently I forgot about it. Rip Ride Rocket closed down. Like they're starting to tear that down. So there's a big
I
dirt
did hear
lot.
about that. Yeah.
There's a bunch of like construction stuff, and they're moving everything around. So it's not like you're walking along the beaten path. You're going through the scare zones. You can find these houses easily. You have to go to the furthest ends of the park and even more because they take you backstage into the studio to get to certain lines. So it's a far walk to get to anything now. So that also isn't beneficial. But secondly, when FNAF is 3 hours, I don't think that's worth your wait for a 7 to 6 minute house that is just okay. I don't hate it, but that's not worth the wait. And so all that to say, I definitely when I got home yesterday, first off, I hadn't eaten, so I grabbed food and I went upstairs. I ate it in my bed. I fell asleep eating food. Like I literally just put it on the ground. I just fell asleep. It's the only time I've ever done that. And I was out. And then my alarm hit at 8 a.m. and I got up. Uh, so if you want to know how I'm feeling, roping it all together, I'm tired. I feel like my legs are in pain, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about Peacemaker. Happy to talk about the ending of Twisted Metal. Let's get a show on it. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired as well, but nowhere near as tired as you. I feel like anytime after a convention, especially like a big convention with a big trip, I always have a long recoup time. Luckily, this weekend is Labor Day, so I have Monday off of work, which will be very nice. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm very interested, honestly, on your thoughts of both of these, but specifically with Peacemaker. Honestly, with
Yeah.
Peacemaker season 2. But we're gonna save that for last. We're gonna go ahead and jump into the last 5 episodes of Twisted Metal. Carson, if you want to go ahead and give your general overall thoughts on these last 5 episodes, the end of season 2. We do not have confirmation of season 3, by the way.
Yeah.
There's been no confirmation, which I don't want to call concerning, but I'm interested to see because apparently the confirmation is season 2 came pretty quickly after the season 1 wrap, and we're only a
Yeah.
few days off of it, but we'll see.
So there's look, I've been no secret keeper when it comes to how I felt about season 1 of Twisted Metal. I never have been. I thought the first season was okay. It didn't really like fully pique my interest. It didn't like, from what I had understood, it didn't like deal heavily of what the games were kind of about or what it was based off of, mostly for the most part. I didn't really feel like it was Twisted Metal. It was fine. And you had characters from it that popped in and out, but it didn't feel like what Twisted Metal was supposed to feel like. Season 2 immediately had turned my entire thought process on that and changed everything because they actually leaned more into the I guess kookiness, campiness of the whole thing, the awkwardness of all of it.
Yeah.
But what they did differently here is they also, love it or hate it, they did try to give a connection to every single character this time around too. And you're not just following John. You're not just following Quiet. Especially because I didn't feel, especially in season 1, I didn't feel that much of a connection to Quiet. I thought she had a good character arc, but it wasn't like anything that really pulled me in as much as I care to admit. Season 2 is a completely different story. They actually did something different. I'm like, I like that. I like that you took that direction. John kind of had the same thing. The only character who stays consistent throughout the entire thing as far as like having a character arc is Sweet Tooth. And it's because he doesn't have a character
Yeah,
arc.
but
It's freaking Sweet Tooth.
yeah.
He doesn't
Yeah,
have an
the
arc.
whole purpose of Sweet Tooth is to be Sweet Tooth. Like,
Sure.
he's just there to be the comic relief, the broodingness, like, yeah.
Right. But the last few episodes, and I'm not going like in direct order, but they told a very well cohesive story. My biggest complaint with it is that they ended up doing things that I got emotional about, and I was actually really shocked that they were able to do. But I wish they would have set them up earlier so I could have had a more not so rushed feeling build. Because at the end
Mhm.
of certain episodes, that's what I got to. And I ended up going, wait a minute, that just seems very rushed, not forced, because I felt something, but you could have easily taken more time to set something up, and you just didn't. Especially because you have enough time to do 45-minute episodes if you so desire. I know that's not what you want to do, but you have that choice. That's very much possible. And so there's some things I feel like are rushed, but I thought the emotional value at the back end of this series was really, really good. The visuals for the most part were pretty good. There was one action sequence I thought was fun, but I couldn't exactly get behind because I could tell it was mostly just shot in like a blue screened lot. And it was really distracting at times and very dark, and you can't really see much at certain times. Um, but I like where the cliffhanger ended. I thought it ended with a very uh unique way to continue the story. Especially because now at the end of it, everybody's all together now. Like no, I guess you could say normal person in this world is together now. We're fighting alongside each other. You have Stu, you have Mayhem, you have John, you have Quiet, and they're all working together now to fight against Calypso. And I think that that's a very bold and unique choice. I can't remember what show. Oh, it's not a show; it's a movie. I'm kind of comparing it to Far From Home, but it's like the ending of Far From Home with Peter getting revealed and his identity's revealed and this and that, and what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
I was a little confused for a second, it's like, "Where's he getting at?" But no, I see where you're going,
but
yeah.
that's kind of how I felt with the ending of this specific uh season. Was I genuinely don't know where they could go. I know an idea of where they can go, but they gave us just enough to where, okay, that's really exciting, that's really fun, and I like that. Um, but again, the show, like wrapping up my quick thoughts. The show has the same problems with it, maybe going too far with a joke every now and again. Maybe the visuals aren't always the best quality, but they improved on various different writing moments, the character moments specifically, and having letting go and having more of a blast and not taking yourself so seriously, I feel like was a big one, especially with the ending of season 2. Um, So at the end of the day, I had a good time with the last few episodes. Go ahead, bud. Go ahead, Brandon.
So I want to build off of something that you touched on because it was I can't remember if it was something we talked about last episode, or I guess last season, sorry. But these are short episodes. These
Yeah.
are like at most 25-minute episodes, not
Yeah.
including the intro credits, whatever. And I feel like in the first season, I don't really have that big of a problem with it. Last season had its moments of heart. There were moments where you feel a little bit connected to the story, but at the same time, I felt like last season went a lot more in the ridiculous, always joking kind of direction. This season, they set up stuff with John's sister and with Quiet and John, and especially with like Mayhem, even with like Mike and Dave and Sweet Tooth and Stu, like a lot more of an emotional connection between characters. And I feel like these being 22 to 25-minute episodes does this season a lot more of a disservice than it
Yes.
did to season one, because I
Yeah.
very much resonate with your comment of there is a lot that I love, and I'll get into that when we go into our back and forth style conversation. But there is a lot to love about this season as a whole, but specifically, I feel like these 5 episodes. The biggest complaint that I have, though, is none of them had time to breathe. I'll bring up an example since we already talk about spoilers, just to give you an exact idea of what I'm talking about. Axel and Mayhem, them
Yeah.
having any sort of dynamic and relationship, I wanted to feel something, especially when Axel sacrificed himself to save Mayhem and Mayhem didn't even know. Now, for all we know, they could get more into detail of that in season 2, but you really can't because Axel was the only one who knew and now he's dead. So
Mm.
Mayhem would have nothing to go off of. Like she has the comments of, "Oh, I trusted him, but I don't know why." But you really didn't give that time to breathe. You kind of hinted at it a little bit. You found out the big reveal, and it paid off in like 3 of those 5 episodes. And I only bring that up because it does feel like you're supposed to feel something.
Right.
And I wanted to. Like I sat there wanting to feel something, but I didn't cry. I was upset that Axel died because I do like him as a character, but in terms of using the connection that he had to Mayhem as an emotional beat to make you feel even more, it didn't work as much for me. And that's only
Sure.
one example. I'll get into more examples when we go into our back and forth. And again, there's also things that I do like. Like I do really like a lot of the comedic aspects of these episodes. I feel like the way that Raven died with the boomerang missile that we'd set up previously, that was really fun and funny. I really enjoyed that. I loved I called it. Dave was gonna be evil, and he was. He was still a cannibal. That was very obvious, but, like, I l
Dave.
I think one of my favorite jokes, and I know it's such a stupid joke, it was when Stu walks in and he's eating the leg, and he's like, "Dude, you can suck your own dick? Dude, that's cool. Like, props to you." And I'm like, "Stu, why is that immediately?" Like, I get
What
that we're in a fucked up world, but, like, Stu.
what was the thing that I sent you through text? Hold on, what was it? Da, 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 da.
Oh, I
I
tried to not remember it because I was like, I didn't wanna say anything, but I was like, "Carson, save it." But, oh, "This clown is trying to fuck me. Good thing I brought protection." That was also yeah.
absolute cinema. That writing does not get better than that. Clearly, everybody has been wrong. Get out of the way, Martin Scorsese. Get out of the way, Steven Spielberg. This is top-notch writing.
Yeah, no, this
God.
was these were some really funny episodes with a lot of heart. I just wish that the heart had more time to breathe. But,
Yeah.
that's kinda my general overarching thoughts. Now let's get a little bit more in depth into our back and forth. Is there anything you wanna start with,
Well, because you
in
kind of
terms of
already went in
likes,
depth with it.
dislikes?
I'll go ahead and say like my piece on this because I liked what they did with Axel and Mayhem. I wish they wouldn't have sacrificed him so quickly. Or if you're gonna do it, start planting the seed with Axel earlier rather than later. Like have people start asking him questions about why he is the way that he is earlier. I was okay with the timeline for okay, this is who Axel is, and then the next day they go to the ball and it's revealed to the audience and to us that oh my god, Mayhem is the girl that he was trying to protect. I'm fine with that reveal. That's okay. The fact that it was a 3-episode arc of there was a girl, he found out that Mayhem is the girl, he sacrificed himself for Mayhem in a 3-episode arc. We didn't get enough time to build with that. And when I actually had texted you, it was at the like reveal that, oh, Mayhem is the girl that he was trying to say. I'm like, that's genius. I love Axel. This is a great character arc for him. And then they kill him off. Again, I knew most of the time that every single one of these characters at one point was going to have to face off and die, with the
Yeah.
exception of, like, obviously Sweet Tooth,
I
Stu.
will say there was some moments in here that kind of surprised me with the way that they went down, and maybe we can touch on that next, but yeah.
But like let's I want to quickly talk about characters that just didn't get enough spotlight and they were just purely there to be funny, but I actually found incredibly annoying. Like Vermin, I really hated that character. That character
I here's the
provided
here
nothing for me.
here's the thing. I kind of assumed that you would bring this up. First of all, I actually looked up the actress that plays Vermin because I was like, you cannot tell what she looks like whatsoever. Like
No.
she is very shrouded in her filth and gunk.
Right.
Absolutely gorgeous. I knew that it wasn't gonna be but like out of everyone to cover in gunk and make the most disgusting character ever, the actress that plays her, I have her name pulled up here. It's Lisa Gilroy. Lisa
Yeah.
Gilroy plays Vermin. She's stunning. But I think that's the entire point of Vermin's character is to be annoying, kind of like a bug. Think of like a fly in your ear or an annoying cricket or something or a cockroach. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the point of her character. So I'm a lot more forgiving. Like, yes, she was annoying, but the whole point of her character is to be annoying. I will
Right.
say, I did find her relationship with Grim that was weird. It was set up and resolved in a single episode of the prom episode in
Again,
the sense
another thing in which I sat there and went, okay, why is this a thing? It's there to give these characters something to do because the writers didn't clearly think of anything for them to do because they're not important. They're just cannon
well,
fodder for
because
just anybody to kill.
the entire point of that prom episode is to set up the next we had 2 more, matches after that. We had the lightning
Yeah.
round, which there was actual lightning, which is the set that looked like it was shot on a soundstage. I knew
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
And then you had the actual final Twisted Metal. And I, I do understand the whole prom episode again was to set up and make you feel for all the characters. Obviously, setting up the emotional beat when Dave turns out to be a cannibal, setting up well, that was really the episode before with the whole intervention, but setting up the whole like vermin and grim thing, setting up the reason why there are certain people not at the lightning round with the
Right.
death of whatever the paper bag's name is and
Oh, Horatio? Is that his name?
no, it was
No.
definitely not Horatio, which I will say I really liked the comedic beat that revealed that, Sweet Tooth saw everyone else as paper bags, but there was an actual actor that was on screen for maybe 5 seconds that
Yes.
actually played the human behind the paper
Yes.
bag.
Yes.
That was pretty funny. I actually really liked that reveal because it plays into just how crazy Sweet Tooth is, and also
Oh,
maybe gives some
absolutely.
cadence to how he can justify murdering everyone because he just views them as paper bags.
Let's see. I know it starts with an H.
It
It
does.
I'm going through it. That's
Are
2020
you looking through the
2025.
cast? He's not gonna be
Harold.
listed in Harold.
Harold.
Harold, thank you. Thank you.
Harold. That's what it was. Yeah, he's listening to the cast. Because I was like, it's gonna be one episode. It's like a 5-second clip. I'm sure he's listed somewhere in here. Harold is his name.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I thought it was funny. I I will say in the latter half, and again, you can't give Sweet Tooth too much. There was literally a whole episode that was set up perfectly for him, and that's whenever like it's like the nighttime and Calypso launches like all the undead test dummy things to go kill everybody or whatnot, and you have to survive doing it.
Yeah.
That's an episode that's made for Sweet Tooth. So why would you actively write him out of the episode only for him to come
Yeah,
back in the end?
that was so I liked a lot of aspects of that episode. I
Yeah.
liked the John and Mayhem having a little bonding moment. I liked the again, trying to further the characters. You have the death of Frostbite in that episode.
Oh
You have
God, the
you have
death of Frostbite.
that was brutal. And I mean, not that that was the most brutal death even in that
No,
episode. Axel
no.
tearing those dudes to the Apocalypse 9 was that was an interesting one,
Yeah.
but I really I'm assuming that the Sweet Tooth being sterile might play more into where we see Sweet Tooth end off at the end of the last episode with him being kidnapped for his dad.
Could
Um,
be. I
that
mean,
could play in, but it felt so I'm right there with you in the sense of this is Sweet Tooth's episode, going around murdering these dudes, like maybe not the team up aspect, but like going around brutally murdering hard to murder people is exactly up Sweet Tooth's lane. So the fact that you wrote him off just to be have it be a oh he's infertile and can't have kids, which doesn't even matter to him, that must pay off. Otherwise, it would only make me hate that aspect of that episode more. Not that that episode was
yeah.
a bad episode by any means. There was a lot of really cool moments. Again, the whole intervention with Dave and Axel, that was really funny and endearing. That's where
Again,
you get the reveal of the
right.
baby.
Again, I don't think that that is going to play a fact further down the road. It could, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll accept that. I don't think it is though, and it's because of the way they set it up as a major joke, and it's not sounding anywhere near serious or sincere. I'm like, he's not upset by it, and he wasn't gonna. He was gonna be like have it be explained. It's just the way the doctor says it. It's the way Sweet Tooth's acting. It's the way he deals with it after. Like he goes, "Oh, by the way, I turns out I'm infertile. Can't have kids. My nuts don't work." Or so I think is what he says exactly. And I'm like, okay, it's a joke because he wouldn't like. That's how they're gonna play it off. Close the book on it. Done. I don't think that's something that's gonna be brought back. At least not to
So
a very major example.
I'm not saying that it's like guaranteed. I honestly would have agreed with you. It's only the fact that they on the way that they left the last episode and where Sweet Tooth is
Yeah.
that kind of makes me go, okay, maybe this is a setup that Sweet Tooth's gonna realize he wants to be a dad. Maybe we'll have a 180 on Sweet Tooth. Who knows? I don't think so. I think that would kind of be a little weird, but
Sure.
who knows? Let's see. What I wanted to talk about was some of the like, I guess, surprising moments.
Mm,
Obviously, we knew that people had to die. That was kind of obvious.
right.
So like Frostbite's death, that was like, yeah, expected. Vermin's death, another one that was kind of expected.
Yeah.
The one that shocked me and felt so it felt so abrupt, but in a way that was purposeful. It didn't feel abrupt in a way that I was like, "Oh, that feels rushed." It felt abrupt in a like, "Oh, wow, they just did that moment." And that
Yeah.
was killing Mike. It was when
Yeah.
Mike just gets eviscerated by a railgun, I believe shot by was
Raven.
that Vermin or was that Raven? I think it was
I thi
Raven, right?
I think it's Raven.
Yeah, like, he just dies, and we just had a whole thing with Stu and with Mike and with Dave and them coming back together. That was insane. Like,
Like
again, I
yeah.
if you would have asked me, like, obviously Frostbite's dying, obviously Vermin's dying, obviously I was not surprised when Sweet Tooth lived. I wasn't really that afraid. I will say there was a moment that I was afraid for John there. I was
Yes.
thinking that they might actually kill John.
That they could have had the balls to do
Um,
it. I thought that
yeah,
they
I
would
thought
have.
that
Yeah.
maybe they would. They didn't, but I'm not mad that they didn't. But no, Mike dying, like Raven dying was a big one. I knew it was going to happen. That was one of those stats that had zero shock value to me. again, it was a big moment. I really liked the whole, like, her getting to say goodbye to Kelly, or I guess joining Kelly or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah,
but Mike.
another moment though, not to cut you off, but like another moment there that you just brought up that I'm like, okay, thank you. Didn't really feel that much. Okay, but yeah, back to Mike.
Mike, I did feel something.
Yes,
Like Mike, mainly because Mike was a character from season 1. I mean, Raven was as well, but very first episode, last episode, minimal
different actress too. If you
involvement.
realize,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now granted, she did have a bigger part to play in the beginning of, or no, not the beginning, in the, what was it, end of last season, or was it the beginning of this season when he escapes from the walls? It was the beginning of this season. She has a bigger
yes.
role to play, but it's still very minimal. So yeah, Mike, I didn't cry, but I was like "Oh, wow, they just killed, like, killed Mike."
All right, after giving him like an actual like really good arc with Stu, redemptive, what not redemptive, but like after giving him this really beautiful arc with Stu,
Yeah.
um, which again, as good as it is, I'm gonna point back to it again. Did still also feel kind of rushed. I felt more out of this one because again, it's a season one character that we've had a long time to build with. But again, it's kind of just very rushed at the
I
very
mean,
end.
ultimately, the only 2 arcs that I really felt connected to was the Mayhem, John and Quiet, but that's also
Yep.
because 'cause they're the main characters,
Yes.
and also I felt connected to the Stu, Dave,
Yeah.
Sweet Tooth. Like, I did feel those were the 2 that I felt most connected to, and that is because that's the 2 we spent the most time with. They're returning characters,
Right.
like, you're supposed to feel something for them. I think, yes, these episodes felt rushed, but I think one of the reasons why it did isn't just because these episodes are short, it's because they had so much to cover. They
Yes.
had so many characters that they tried to give arcs to, that I'm not saying I didn't like that they gave each character arcs. I did. It's just that, like, they breathed on them a lot, and not
Yeah.
enough at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
Um. I I agree with you on that. And again, it's not all bad. Like I can't say it's bad. This is exactly the type of show that Twisted Metal is, and this is the show that it's set up. It's more focused on stuff like that, and that's fine as long as you know what you're getting into. And that's why I've kind of accepted it at this point. It's also why it's where I'm at. Like, okay, I've accepted it. I'm here. I'm along for the ride. Just do it.
I mean, I will say I had a lot more fun with this season than last
Yes.
season, for sure.
Well,
Like,
I feel like there was a lot more opportunities to have fun because again, it didn't take itself so seriously. It
yeah.
decided to lean into what it was really good at, but also, just have fun with it. That's
Yeah,
what they
the
ran with.
absurdist humor aspect, and not that any of the actors did a bad job last season, but I
No.
really feel like they felt a lot more comfortable in their roles.
Yes.
Like, Sweet Tooth brought a lot of, obviously, I know it's a different actor for the voice and for the actual physicality of it, but they feel like they mesh so well together that you can't tell, and it's
Yeah.
honestly kind of impressive. Like, obviously, it's easy because Sweet Tooth has a mask, so it's not like you're having to lip sync over it, but the fact that you can balance such intimidating physicality with such a voice that fits the body, but in a very, like, unique and comedic way, I guess, that's something
Yeah.
that I felt worked even more this season, especially since you gave him, like, the rivalry with Grimm, and that played into a lot more of his animalistic
Right.
tendencies and more of
Right.
his revenge-driven, nature.
Well, and I also want to talk about one character specifically in this season that I thought not only was perfect casting, was an unexpected delight, especially because it's more we have this season we have a more centered villain, and that's Calypso. That's
Yeah.
Anthony Kerrigan as Calypso. I think that first off, Anthony Kerrigan. I know I mentioned this a long time ago, but like I've seen him in other stuff before. He was just in Superman. He was Metamorpho.
Mhm.
He was in a show called Barry. He played a similar villain, except he was a bit more incompetent than he is here. Here, he is just straight up creepy, and he leans into it so well because he gives off this, really nice guy vibes. He, provides a deal, make your wish, whatever is that. He just has a really cool character to play, but he does it so well because he gives you the right amount of like creepy, but also the right amount of like normal nice guy. Um, I think he does he just smashes it out of the park. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
stole a lot of the show for me this season.
Anytime he was on screen, like, you're locked in. Like, you know that you're either gonna get something creepy and unsettling, something comedic, like, you're
Yeah,
gonna get something that's, like, absolutely, like, you gotta lock in. And obviously he's going to return for hopefully season 3, and I don't wanna say play
right.
a bigger role, but probably play a pretty equally sized role.
Right. Well, whereas in season 2, he was in every single episode, he might be in half or just under in season 3 because
Yeah.
they at this point it's more so it is about the main four who we have with Mayhem, John, Quiet Stew. It's not so much about him anymore. It's not about his games. They're trying to get to him. So you're actively not going to spend as much time with him to keep the mystery and the adventure of, okay, how do we get to this point? How do we get to this point? We're no longer being let in on the mind of Calypso. That's kind of gone at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Calypso has a brand new bodyguard, which, look, when you don't show a body on screen and you're in your death, you know they're coming back. So when the minion was released, that was my first thought is that's the sister.
Really?
The sister is in that
I
suit.
I was I clo I did not clock it, I'll admit. I was shocked when they revealed it. Afterwards, I thought about it and I was like, okay, whatever, like, I see it now." But I did not that was not a thought that crossed my mind until it was revealed.
I didn't clock it in the episode before when he was strung up by chains. I genuinely thought it was a robot then, whatever. I thought it was just like a special tool. I didn't clock it then. I clocked it the moment the box dropped and she stepped out and it looked like a suit. I was like, okay, that's clearly the sister in the suit. I'd be very shocked if it wasn't. I knew it had to have been. And that's why when it like for a split second when it wasn't revealed at the end of the fight and they went off and did their own thing, I was like, ooh, really? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was slightly wrong, but I called it the moment that the suit was more in the light. You could actually see the whole thing. I was like, that's clearly the sister in the suit. And I think that's just because I think that's a predictable thing to guess at this point because not saying it's overdone. You can still do it right, and it did it right here, but it's definitely a more common trope in shows like this nowadays, where that's like a
Yeah.
big reveal.
Well, and it's definitely interesting because at the start of these 5 episodes, the conflict is started with John and Quiet arguing and kind of having a falling out over the second wish that John makes, which is to bring his sister back.
Yeah,
And so I guess now he gets what he wants, even though they didn't win and they didn't actually get any wish.
right.
Um, and so I am curious though, because we see the whole moment where Calypso confronts Quiet and John about the fact that they made 2 wishes. He kind of crashes out a little bit over his rules and how he said you can only make 1 wish.
Right,
And he already obviously knew what the second wish was, but
right.
it was I wonder if this was a premeditated thing of it being John's sister, or if this is him punishing John for making a second wish because he's very big on rules. We see the whole thing with after Dave is killed and after Harold is killed,
Yeah.
the whole trial with Stu and with Grim. I wonder if the demon being John's sister specifically is his punishment to John for breaking the rules and making that second wish.
Oh well, or the other way I look at it is, I'm only saying this because Stu ended up spoiler alert, Stu ended up winning Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
Which
I
I
was gonna talk about that in a bit, but yeah,
I
we can
I
cover
I
that.
didn't expect that. We can talk about that more in depth in a minute. But specifically, Stu's wish is to go somewhere safe with Mike, and he's not very specific about his wording.
It's
He
very
is
genie
right.
coded. Not like Genie from Aladdin, but like online internet Genie, where if you've ever seen those videos where it's like if you're not super specific, they're gonna find a loophole.
So he went somewhere safe with Mike. He went in space. Mike's already dead, so it's just his dead body floating around, and that's kind of what makes it very tragic about that end. And again, we might talk more in depth about that, but I'm saying that
Yeah,
specifically because had John won, would his wish have been your sister's right there, right behind you, and
yeah.
takes off the mask like there you go. I spared your sister. I never said how. I just said that you said you wanted to bring her back. There you go. That's her right there. I think everything had like a give and take with the wish.
I mean, it's very obviously clear that Calypso is a demon, he's Satan, whatever. You see the pentagram on his door. So obviously, he's not going to be the good guy. He's not going to give you exactly what you want. It was very obvious from the. We even talked about it. We didn't necessarily predict again the whole Stu winning thing, but we kind of talked about how even if John and Quiet won, I didn't think that the walls were going to come. I didn't think they were going to get what they wanted out of it. And so none of this was a shock, but again, like thinking about it, I do think that I don't know if John's sister being the demon was something that would have happened like no matter what, or if that
Yeah.
is the punishment for John making that second wish.
I don't know, and honestly, I might never know. We
We
may never know.
probably won't. We
That might
probably
not
won't.
be yeah, that might not be something that ever will get answered. But I like to think of it as a like what if this was going to always be what it was? Like if John didn't genuinely did win, would this genuinely have been what exactly would have happened to his sister? Like, hey, here you go. She's right there. Your wish
Yeah,
is
well,
complete.
because I guess using that as a segue to talk more in depth about, yeah, Stu wins, kind of by accident. Like technically, it's weird because it seemed like they set it up like no one won. Because were you not allowed to get out of your cars? Because it seemed like the second Quiet got out of the car to save John, he like said no one won, and then obviously Stu comes out still inside of his car. So that's
Right.
where I was a little confused. But it's whatever. It was more
It
done for the comedic
yeah.
payoff of the Mike and Stu in space bit.
Right. But it's just it's interesting because also like if you think about Quiet's wish, would the give and take had been like, oh, you weren't specific enough with your wording. All the walls are down. Every single wall is down. That does not mean the law or the rule has changed. So they could easily put the wall back up. Or they could uh, uh fight against everybody a lot easier on the
Well,
inside. There would have been give and take to it. You need to be specific with your wording, like you said, genie in a bottle. It just it's more of a in me, it's like a what if this would have happened? Would that genuinely have been what would have happened? Because at the end of the day, Calypso is I am pretty sure it literally Calypso the god. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but it's ironic that the name is Calypso and Calypso is like a horrible god, you know.
yeah.
And so
Well,
it makes me
so
wonder. That's all.
my thoughts on that is obviously with the end of the episode you have John and Quiet now having to be on the run. The
Mhm.
walls aren't down, but they
No,
kind of are in a way, in the sense of now the insiders are starting to want to purge the outsiders, and so that they can put the walls down and reclaim the land. So I wonder if that would have been the give and take is the walls come down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the insiders can't just exterminate everyone with their superior like resources, firepower, etc. Like I don't think the walls going down would have gone down
right.
as easily as Quiet specifically would and the masks would have hoped.
Sure. Um and again, we're playing the speculation game at that point. But it's
Yeah.
a really interesting question, especially when you get into like again the type of character that Calypso is when you make a deal with the devil or you're making a wish with the devil, this that. It's interesting to think through the various different like what if scenarios. Um but yeah, I mean I liked Anthony Kerrigan. I definitely liked Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatrice this time around a lot more. I just felt like they gave those characters more to do, and especially once you throw Mayhem in there, it just added more of a stake for those two characters. And Mayhem as a character is just okay. I don't think she's really anything special, but I don't think she has to be either. She's serving her purpose. She's exactly what she's supposed to be right now.
I mean, I really did like the emotion that she brought and the stakes that she brought.
Yeah,
I think the actress is beautiful, but I say that way too often. I'm very sad and alone, so that's
y-
why.
you're wearing
I
a pink fucking wig as you're saying that right now. Don't make that face. Don't do that. That's not gonna
I
help
pretty
you.
princess.
Okay, well,
So I think I really did like the whole way that they ended with John and Quiet going to the cabin and having Mayhem kind of as like a pseudo daughter, which is kind of how she was the whole time. One thing that kind of like shocked me was when Stu came to the front door.
yeah,
Um, it wasn't that he came to the front door, that he came back from space. I was surprised that it happened in the end of this season. I would have thought that was
yes,
something we would have paid off next season. The thing that shocked me was he makes a comment that he was up in space for months. Like they were at this cabin bonding
yeah,
for months.
yeah,
That scares me because now these characters are more bonded together, which means that there is a higher likelihood that one of them might die because then it would give a like you start out the next season with Quiet or Mayhem or even John
yeah.
like dying to set up a revenge an even bigger revenge quest than them being
It
on the run.
it wouldn't be at the beginning of the season. However, I could easily see that towards the end of the season or even the midway point, just to drive the knife even further. And at the end of the day, the other thing you got to factor into is how is Sweet Tooth going to get back to this story? How is he going to get roped back into this? Because yes, he's going to see his father, but who's his father? What role does he have to do with the main story? Because he's gonna have to. Otherwise, I'm not saying Sweet Tooth will be wasted, but it'll definitely be like B plot, A plot, and an unnecessary B plot.
I do feel like it's gonna be a B plot for probably the first few episodes. Honestly, I think until about probably the halfway point is when you wrap Sweet Tooth back into the overarching story. And
Yeah.
I think again, there is a relationship between John, Quiet, and Sweet Tooth because of
Yeah.
that episode 2 of season 1 that I think adds I guess you have the whole commentary during the final match that Sweet Tooth has that obviously he's crazy. Obviously he's willing to kill anyone, including the people close to him. Like he doesn't really care.
Right.
But he does have the whole thing about like, oh yeah, I like John, I like Sweet, or I like Quiet. Like he brings that up multiple times, even while he's chasing them down and ready to kill them. So what if he teams up with them to a certain extent to defend against the outsiders? And it
Sure.
has something to do with it seems like Sweet Tooth's dad is probably the leader of some society, and they use those characters to rope back in with the main plot. Like say John and in Quiet stumble across this society with Sweet Tooth, and then something that kind of kicks off into the second half of season 3.
Right.
I think that could be pretty interesting.
Right. Um. Look, we'll definitely see what happens. I'm kind of wrapping my thing together when my stuff together when I say this because I'm phrasing it in that manner. But look, I liked this season. I thought it was much better than season one. I enjoyed myself more, and I know it actually makes me want to watch season three when it actually gets here. If it gets here, it'll be a must watch for sure. I think that the show still has some of the same problems that it has from season one. Like I mentioned, sometimes it has just a little too many jokes that go overboard or that might be awkward. They had a lot of cannon fodder this season with people who we knew were going to just get clipped immediately the moment we saw them. And they had a lot of, surprisingly, a lot of moments of, ooh, let's give this person this arc, but it's a little too late for that arc to be happening because it's just done and over with.
Yeah.
I think that I like the main core cast more. Again, we spent more time with them. I like the direction where it's going, and the cliffhanger is genuinely like peak for the show. It's perfect for what it is. Um, but at the end of the day, I think Twisted Metal is still perfectly watchable. It's perfectly fine. If it's not your cup of tea to watch this show, I wouldn't argue with it. It's not even 100% mine. I just like the action. I like the characters at this point, and I think Sweet Tooth is still my favorite character in the whole damn thing. So,
Yeah, I think I'm probably higher on the show than you are, but I definitely
yeah,
understand, like, this is one of those shows that you have to really click with.
yeah,
This is not an everyone show. This isn't probably even a most people show. But I think if any element of the concept of this show sounds interesting to you, I think you're gonna get a really fun ride. I
yeah,
think Anthony Mackie is this is really him showing off his range of acting. Because Falcon is he is a quippier character. He is a little bit more comedic, but he leans even more into those elements here. I
yeah.
think it like Stephanie Beatrice is another one that she really is good at playing those serious comedic roles, Rosa Diaz being like my favorite of her roles. But I think she does a really good job. I think all the actors do a really good job. I don't think there's any like low hanging
Right,
fruit, weaker characters.
right. It's all well done for the most part.
Yeah. I was genuinely like when the insider side of the stadium like blew up, like I was genuinely shocked. Like that it did have those moments that had me like, wow, they just did that. Like I
It
knew
has shock
something was
value.
going to happen,
Yeah,
but it is genuine shock value. And again, like while some of the more heart to heart moments do feel a little more rushed to, I still do have a connection that makes me concerned. And when John is laying on the ground, might die, and they have to pull the car around and shock him with the that would kill him, but shock him to life with a car battery, like
right.
I am concerned because I do think that the show might have the balls to kill him, which I think bringing up like Fantastic Four, the shirt you're wearing, like I wasn't afraid that Sue was going to die. Even though she was a main character, I wasn't afraid that she was going to die.
Sure,
Even though John is a main character, you still have Quiet and Mayhem that could pick that back up and continue the show and be pretty enjoyable. So that
sure,
makes me fear more that he is going to die. Now, if they continue to try and pull on on your heartstrings like this, it's going to be less and less effective. But for this moment, that really worked for me. So I think overall, I did enjoy this season more than season one, and I liked season one. It left me really wanting a season three. Honestly, more than season two even left me, or even more than season one left me wanting a season two. Season two left me really wanting a season three. So I really hope that people watch this. I really hope that people enjoy this. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this.
mm,
So I just hope that it gets enough love to make a season three because I'll be
right,
there day one and we'll talk about it.
right. Yeah.
But
Let's
using
see.
that as a transition, we
What?
have two more episodes of a season two to talk about. This is the start of a season two, Peacemaker season two. Last week's episode was our Peacemaker season one retrospective. I watched it for the first time. Carson watched it for his second time.
Yeah.
Um, and so we gave all of our thoughts. We're not gonna rehash that unless it relates to our thoughts on season
Yeah.
two. But I'll kick it back to you again, Carson. Walk us through your thoughts as I
Yeah.
hate leaving the field of view, but I do really need to fill my water. So I'll let you run through that and listen in while I fill up my water.
So I've been no I've never lied about like how I felt about the show. I've always been super high on Peacemaker. I like it. I think it's unique. I think it's cool. I think it's very James Gunn hard R. Um, I've also completely understood that this may not be everybody's type of show. Similar reasons to Twisted Metal. It goes a bit overboard with the jokes. It has probably one too many moments where it sacrifices itself for a dramatic moment for a joke. But season 2 started off in a much different way, and it makes me more excited for what's to come. And last week I did talk about how I, especially on rewatch, I felt like James Gunn, because we know that Peacemaker was not supposed to be alive after the Suicide Squad. That was supposed to be a one and done,
Mhm.
whatever. James Gunn
Yeah.
liked John Cena in the role so much, he brought him back and made a whole show about it. And I had even said about how I felt like some of the show's writing was a bit rushed, how the story kind of just seemed kind of thrown together at the last second, because very much so it was very much just thrown together at the last second. Here, I can already tell off the bat they put more thought into this story because they are building to a lot more emotional moments with this group, and they have a lot more emotional moments in this group. They do have the occasional joke that you're just like, okay, that might be a bit too far. I don't know why that, like, why are we doing this? But like, I think the start to this season is already significantly better than the start of season 1, and I'm already more hooked to this story. But again, the same problems from season 1 are still kind of prevalent with the idea of, oh, every now and again they'll sacrifice a dramatic moment for a joke. Not every joke lands because it goes kind of overboard at times. There's one sequence in here that I'm like, God, it's just The Boys 2.0. That's actually what I texted my friend when I was watching part of this show. I was like, oh my God, why are they just trying to do The Boys, but in like a much weirder way? So those are kind of like my quick thoughts. I liked it. I liked the first 2 episodes. I'm hooked. I'm excited to see where the story goes. Um, the other thought, and we'll talk more about this in depth, I feel like they're doing the multiverse right with this, but they're doing it in an interesting concept that I just don't think has been done, but that we've seen with the multiverse yet. So,
Yeah, no, I that's definitely something I want to dive more into as we get into our back and forth. But just to give my quick thoughts, before we get into that back and forth, I finished episode 2 earlier this morning, just
mm,
because I wanted to finish it yesterday after work and kind of just fell asleep. Um, so I finished episode 2 this morning, and what I had a hard time with the first episode of Peacemaker season 1.
no,
By episode 2, I was very, I don't want to say I was like fully hooked, but like I understood the general direction that they were going. I started to see the relationship between the characters start to grow, and over the course of season 1, I really had a fun time with Peacemaker. I really enjoyed, again, a lot of the same complaints that you had. Sometimes they sacrifice emotional moments, sometimes jokes go a little too far. Like, yes, that happens, but by the end of it, I really did genuinely enjoy Peacemaker season 1.
mm,
With Peacemaker season 2, we've seen 2 episodes. I'm not as hooked. I'm going to be honest. Obviously we know exactly where they're going with this season. It's very clear direction wise, even more so than season 1. But with that being said, like, the concept that they have is interesting. And again, we'll get more into that. But the thing that really got me connected to Peacemaker and really made me want to keep watching, even when I had a moment of, ooh, that joke didn't work or whatever, it was the character dynamics that they built up between the main, like, ensemble cast. It feels like we're not going to get nearly as much of that this season, and maybe we will, and maybe I'll be wrong, and we'll continue talking about this every single week and have my opinion changed. But I just didn't, I don't know, like, the main concept of the story did not hook me enough to get me as invested back into the story as I wanted to be. I think that there's a lot of elements that I'm very curious to see them flesh out, but I don't know. I just something about these 2 episodes just did not grab me in a way that I wanted to be grabbed.
Was it the
I've seen
orgy? It might have been the
no,
orgy.
that was definitely not it, and
It
we'll talk about that more in depth, but I actually that's the most dicks I've ever seen on a television screen that wasn't just porn. Um, so that was a lot. And so they we'll talk about more about that like a little bit later, but it wasn't that. I think it's just again like you've separated all of our main characters and you've kind of gone back. So they're repeating a character beat that I liked from season 1 that I don't feel as connected to this season. And that would be the character beat of there is someone in the group who is lying and who is spying on the group. Last season it was why am I blinking on her name? You had to correct me last
At a
time.
bio.
Adebayo, that because it's such a unique name. I should remember it because it's unique, but Adebayo and Economist. Adebayo was spying for Amanda Waller last season. Now Economist is spying for Rick Flag this season. And I just I don't know. I don't like that they're repeating that because I feel like we're just going to go the same exact direction and it's going to
So
just be a repeat of that. So that's kind of my general thoughts. I just want to kind of get into the back and forth. Maybe your opinion will change mine or as we think about this more.
let's
But
talk about that specifically because I don't think that's they're not. It may start off that way. They're not going that route. First off, the difference between the first season and this season is that they weren't friends in the first season. They didn't
yeah,
have a connection to any of
true.
them. It's different now. There's stakes because they all are friends, and Economos is just doing his job. But he doesn't want to do this. Like he doesn't want to do it. That's the difference between this and the first season. Secondly, I don't think this is going to play a factor much longer, especially for Economos, because now Peacemaker's already in the alternate universe. Flag is going to be at his house, swarming that gate area, ready to go when he comes back. That's where we're at this point in the story. That van section of him just spying and lying to his friends, that's gone. That's non-existent anymore. So I don't think that's going to be a factor. The one thing I do disagree with you, and it's the reason I'm hooked is because of the character dynamics. I think they're elevated here. They're all still really close, and they have incredible scenes with each other. All of them better than when the first season is. Just because they're not all together doesn't mean the dynamics are still there, or still like not be excited with the possibility. I think you specifically said you were worried about the fact that you weren't going to get a lot of those dynamics because the fact that they're not going to be on screen with each other. That's not true. They are. I promise you, in this parallel universe, they are all going to be on screen with each other, especially Chris Harcourt, Chris Adebayo. I'm sure Vigilante is going to play a factor in that, like, because they're already building up that
Well,
there's an alternate use of
Vigilante
a
plays
Vigilante.
probably the biggest role in this mainly because you have the scene with him chopping up the body, which we'll talk about that scene later because I have my thoughts on that, but
Yeah.
it it is look, I get it, they do spend time together and you do have like the rooftop party and the moments with Adebayo and Peacemaker right in the beginning where she's driving him to the Justice Gang. um like you do have those moments. I just things feel weird, and I think I genuinely think the biggest one for me is the hardcore element of this. They do have a really funny introduction with her being diagnosed with toxic masculinity. They have the whole fake out where you think it's going to be like Peacemaker or someone, and no, it's hardcore. But I don't know, like I feel like everyone the biggest connects is Adebayo, Vigilante, and Peacemaker. They all feel connected, but
Yeah.
Hardcore is sitting on the sidelines over here, kind of observing from the outside. And you have a very similar thing with Economos because he is playing double agent. And again, he doesn't want to do it. And I do think that that could play into maybe he double spies. Then you're going to have an arc with that. I don't know where they're going to take that. I am intrigued with that, but I don't know because you have two characters still sitting on the what feels like the sidelines of the friendship. I don't know, it's
Again,
not
I
working for
I
me as much. I understand its necessity for the plot, but
I think it works better than it should have because you're dealing with the fallout of basically getting Amanda Waller fired. And remember, in the timeline, this is only I think it's like 8 months after the first season. I think is what they said. It's not like the actual span of time that like
it
we're
is
in.
post I don't know what the actual timeline is of this is, but it is post Superman.
It's post Superman, but Superman also wasn't that far after Peacemaker stuff. I don't know why, but the timeline's all weird. We have to figure that out.
Well,
Uh
let's talk about that. Let's start with that after you finish up what you're thinking about now, and we'll continue.
No, I'm just saying that you're dealing with the fallout of firing Amanda Waller, and Waller's still a powerful person. So what is she doing, even though you don't see her? Making Hardcourt's life so fucking difficult that she can't even keep a simple job, that the only way she gets action, which is what her whole life has been, is just one action piece to the next, one fight to the next. She
It's going
goes to
to the
bars
yeah.
looking for trouble. I think it makes perfect sense. And that version of hardcore, especially because we're going to see a parallel version of it, doesn't ask for help, doesn't ask for her friends to come in and help, even though they are all friends. I think it is a genius dynamic. I think it works really well. Economos is in the exact opposite position where he's still employed, but it's because he's too scared to speak up or to turn against. He needs this job. He has to have this job because he has nothing else.
Yeah, well, because
It's
he has that
it's
whole line of dialogue about how he's had an anxiety disorder since he was a kid and that's the reason why he is, kinda stuck where he is because he's lying to everyone because the reason you have this whole homecoming party is because everyone thinks that Economos is off in the middle of nowhere working or whatever. They don't know that he is still in town
yeah.
spying on Peacemaker, spying on Chris
Right.
because they think that he is off at Argus headquarters or wherever he might be.
Right, and I think the other added factor, and again, we'll go back to what you want to talk about, but like another factor you're missing about this whole setup that actually was the immediate hook was Rick Flag Senior. That is going
Yeah.
to be a major part of the season, and yeah, that may not be a group dynamic answer, but that's such a heavy weight and heavy toll, especially coming off of the Suicide Squad. It's a very unique, creative, but also for Flag gut wrenching story because all like he's blinded by his revenge. That's why he's the first orders. I want to see the Peacemaker file. I want to see the file on my son's death. They didn't give it to me. Great. Yeah, I need to survey the Peacemaker at all times. Like I don't care if he was a part of Project Butterfly. Make it a top priority. He's looking for any excuse to get his hands on him, and it adds a whole factor into it that wasn't there before. Also, um, and we'll talk about the
Well,
emotional
and that
resonance
element
with Chris and
does
you know his counterpart with the multiverse, but that'll be a different
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, no, that whole element, I wouldn't call it unique. It's a revenge plot. We've seen it a million times. I do like that element. I feel like it works for Rick Flag's character or for Rick Flag Senior's character.
Yeah,
But I want to get more into that a little bit later. I want to cover this now, just because I feel like we should have started with this, but we kind of diverted.
sure.
And that is where slash when this takes place.
Yeah,
Because did you watch the previously on
yeah, and I saw that they had replaced the
the
Justice League with
Justice
the
League
Justice
with the
Gang,
Justice Gang? Yes.
and I saw that we
That
had
was the big one.
Supergirl, Superman, Mister Terrific, Guy Gardner, and Hawkgirl. We had those specific
It
characters.
was interesting that we had Supergirl with that one was the one that was, I guess, surprising to me,
Yeah, especially because they didn't have
because
to throw her in there. They had a perfect
it
amount to
yeah,
not throw
I
her in there.
really that I guess just makes me more excited because again, it asks the question of when does this take place? Because
Sure.
it's obviously post Superman, but is it also post Supergirl?
Right.
And because it also asks the question of um is is this just a general retcon, or is this the fact that this version that we're watching of Peacemaker takes place in a parallel universe to the previous Peacemaker, where there are slight differences that lead to the Justice Gang, but everything else with the butterflies still happened? Or is James Gunn just going, fuck it, we're just going to replace them. We're not going to comment on it. We're never going to bring it up again. It is what it is. Like, what are
Well,
your thoughts on that? I'm like
it's
genuinely curious because I
it's it,
don't think that was confirmed.
well, what's also funny is we did also see the clip of I forget his the actor's name. Uh but Flags Jr. get killed by Peacemaker. It's the same thing from the
Yes.
Suicide Squad. So logically, Suicide Squad is in the same
But
universe.
we knew that from season one. That's the thing. We already knew that this was the Peacemaker that killed. We like that. That was already established in season one. The
Sure.
thing that's the whole interesting one is the Justice League Justice Gang thing.
Yeah,
Me.
I think it's fine to replace them with that. I think it's weird that Supergirl's a part of it unless they make a reason for it at the end of her movie, which they could. Um I think it was just a quick, easy way for him to rewrite it and get it out there. Um, Especially because he kind of had to just do it. Everything else in Peacemaker season one is fine. It literally is just that last scene. Like you can still reference Batman. That whole Batman joke of like, oh, he's a dark creature of the night. He's a jackass. This, that, like that can still exist because people know Batman exists. He does exist in this universe. It's already been shown in Creature Commandos. He exists. Superman exists. All these past things with the Suicide Squad exist, even though we don't know exactly. Okay, Margot Robbie is definitely coming back as Harley Quinn. We know Idris Elba is coming back as Bloodsport. We don't know any of that yet. So there's just a slight confusion with that. That being said, I do know that it takes place after Superman.
Yes.
Um, but I don't think Superman takes place that long after season one of Peacemaker. At least I'm pretty sure. Um,
Yeah. It gets a little. I don't want to say needlessly confusing because I think if you're not like us and big nerds of this stuff, you probably won't care all that much and you'll kind of just go, okay, it is what it is. This takes place when it takes place,
yeah,
whatever. But at the same time, I feel like Peacemaker is more of a show for the more serious, nerdy fans
yeah.
because most people only watch movies that are into the like that are can claim themselves to be superhero
Mm,
fans. It is a very small sub demographic that might still be casuals. Like there are still casuals mixed in there, but I feel like you weed out a lot of the extremely casual people in a television
sure,
show, so you're going
sure.
to ask a lot of those questions, which is why I do feel like James Gunn felt the need because here's the thing, he could have just ignored the end of with the Justice League. He could have. He did not technically need to retcon that.
Right.
He did. He made that choice, but now that he's made that choice, it brings up a lot of questions that I don't think we're going to get direct answers to, but who knows? We've already seen that we're playing around with multidimensional stuff. They could find a different way to maybe not retcon it, but make it make sense, I guess.
I'd be willing to bet that after this is fully out and maybe after Supergirl's out, Gunn will probably make like a statement somewhere with Variety or Rolling Stone or something and just say like, oh no, this is actually like what happened. This is what's actually replaced. This that once it's all kind of out there and there's nothing like they're trying to hide or starting a universe, that point will make more sense. I don't think in
Well,
canon or in films or in television they're going to try to solve it any more than what they've already done because there's no
and
point to either.
I haven't watched this yet just because again, I try to avoid reviews of things before we talk about them now. That wasn't originally the case, but I try to do that now. But James Gunn, if you did not know, is actually doing a companion podcast. He did a recap of every episode of Peacemaker season one, and he's doing a companion podcast with season two. So episodes one and episodes two are already out, where he's talking about the production, the acting,
Yeah.
where this takes place. So after we're done recording this, I might go back and listen to those, and maybe we'll have the
A
answers.
more clear answer. Sure.
So we'll see. It's on the DC Studios or DC Showcase. It's the same podcast feed of the DC podcast that Koi hosts that I listen to. Our Lord and Savior Koi Jandro.
All hail Supreme Leader Koi Jandro.
You know what's really funny? Little side tangent. I've talked about how I watch the Escape Pod. I watch so many ungodly hours of podcasts every week on top of everything else. Um, they posted or an affiliated thing made a post. That was a clip because Koi just recently appeared on the Escape Pod. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. I highly recommend watching that episode, Carson. Like I know you're not super into podcasts. Go to the Escape Pod, watch the most recent episode with Koi. I think it's a must watch. Like it's an all timer. But someone posted a clip of this, and someone in the comment section was like, "Who's the guy that they're with? Like, who's this guest?" And I commented underneath that and said, "That is our Lord and Savior, Koi Jandro."
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All
on
right.
TikTok.
Sick.
I think it has like 30 likes on that comment now on TikTok.
Sick.
It was on my personal on my personal account,
Yeah.
not my not
Yeah.
the official one, but little side tangent that was funny,
Sure.
because we have our running
But
joke,
but
um,
yeah, I hear what
but
you're saying. I think kind of just like going back to it because I know we kind of start on it and you were asking questions like why do I think this? Where's the timeline at? This that. I
yeah,
think if I remember hearing correctly, and we'll get corrected next week when we talk about this because you'll have listened to something by this point. But
mhm,
I recall it only being like 8 months to a year after the
yeah.
actual events of Superman. Not even that long because
Well, and
Flag
it's
Senior
very
has to be in that position, but it's not for very long because Waller would have just had to have left or something at that point.
yeah. Well, and it's very clear that there has been a time jump, but it isn't all that long, just through the relationship of the characters,
Right.
the ensemble cast.
Right.
Um, I you do have like the funny joke with Vigilante and Economos after Vigilante's taking a break at work and gets yelled at by his boss, where he calls Economos just to chat because he's lonely and he misses him. Like those moments do work for me in the sense of, I guess, reconfirming the character relationships. I don't know. Again, it's just like I want to
Yeah.
live with those characters, and I do think we're going to get there, and that's why I'm excited to see where this season goes. But again, I'm
It just
let's
started. You
talk.
need to see the complete picture.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
how it
so
goes.
let's talk about what the main driving factor of this whole season is. And that is well, I guess there's two plots, but let's talk about the main one, the one that has to do with Peacemaker. And that is Peacemaker stumbles across a parallel world that is
Yep.
essentially his ideal world. His dad's a good supposedly his dad's a good guy. I have my questions on how good they are, but
Right.
his brother is alive. They're all heroes together, and he stumbles into that world. He has a relationship with hardcore. Like everything is kind of up his alley,
Ev
going up Peacemaker's
Everything that
alley.
he's wishing and dreaming for, he's getting in this universe. Right.
Correct. Now he kills the Peacemaker of this world. And that was kind of not a shock, but he
It's so
kills the
funny.
Peacemaker of this world. And so now at the end of episode 2, he goes to take the place of this Peacemaker. We don't
Yeah.
see that start, but it's very clear that that's where they're setting it up.
Right.
And so, I mean, that was clear from the second they introduced the parallel world on where that was logically going to go.
Right.
But I guess I'll start this off with a question. Do you think everything is actually his perfect world? Like, what do you think is going to be the main like, do you think that it's going to be, yes, this is his perfect world, and the conflict is him having to be ripped away back to his real, actual friends? Or do you think he's going to find out that not everything is as good? Like, don't judge a book by its cover. This isn't as perfect as you want.
I think that for him, everything's gonna be normal. I think for others, it's not, and I think he's going to realize that. I think he's gonna realize that
Ooh.
Adebayo may not be, like, exactly where she's with maybe Adebayo is literally Amanda Waller and becomes an Amanda Waller figure
Mm.
in that universe, and that's like, okay, that's an imperfect thing, but he has this to balance it out, so he's just gonna write it off. I tried to think of something for Vigilante, but I don't know like what they would do. That he's already a horrible
He's
human
in
being.
jail
Technically,
and rotting away, or maybe
he
he's
could be
dead
in
or
jail,
something like
running
that.
away.
Yeah.
He could have died. I thought of the idea that uh, you know he could get a he could be at peace with Rick Flag Jr. if he makes an appearance in this show, which very well could be a possibility because Peacemaker didn't end up killing Rick Flag in the Suicide Squad in this potential timeline because everything's perfect
Supposedly,
for
yeah,
him.
because well, supposedly he was probably never a part of Project X in the Suicide Squad.
Right.
Well, that I didn't think about that, but I do really like the idea of what pulls him out of this world is obviously he loves his friends. He has that connection with each and every one of them,
Right.
and maybe his life is going good. And yes, we obviously know the only one we have confirmation on is Hardcore and where she's at, but
Right.
maybe it is a oh, Adebayo is the Amanda Waller of this world. Oh, Vigilante
Right.
was in an insane asylum or executed for his crimes or in
Right.
jail. Economos is just a dude who has nothing going for it. Like something along the lines for either one or multiple of his friends that he just can't live with, like, he can't cope with. Because
But
I think that would be a lot more interesting than if the whole conflict was just, "Oh, we need to rip you back to your real world." Like, I
well,
think
and
something.
that's the thing that you have to sit and ask yourself as Peacemaker is, okay, all these things are bad, and I don't like that they're bad, but I get this back. I get my brother. I get my father. Not just my father. I get a version of my father who says "I love you" to me, and like actually treats
Yeah.
me like a son. Um, the woman that I'm in love with in this universe, who may or may not kind of love me there, definitely does here, and we have a relationship. So it's an interesting concept to play with, and I think that's why they also haven't revealed various things yet because they're going to later on. Like, hey, in this universe, this is this, and it'll play into the factor of how Peacemaker's going to go about and fixing this. I don't know how Flag is gonna come back into play. It's Flag Senior because I don't think he's crossing the barrier into the parallel universe. I think he's just monitoring it and waiting for Peacemaker to come back.
So you don't think that he's ever going to cross that line? Like, you think that he's going
No,
to okay.
no. I think the others are gonna go in to get him, which would make a ton of sense. But we're also waiting to see who Flag is trying to contact at Belle Reve. That is also a big thing that we're still trying to figure out because he makes that big line about how, oh, I need to get in contact with somebody from Belle Reve. Okay, that's great. What are we like? Who are we contacting? I would imagine it's probably Judo Master because we've seen him in the
Well,
trailer.
because yeah, he's already kinda gotten spoiled from the opener, which, mind you, was epic again. I did watch the opener, but
Or it could be Amanda Waller. Like Amanda Waller is in prison. I don't think that I don't know. That might not be a thing. It could be. It's
yeah.
probably Judo Master. But point being, maybe Flag sends everybody in there, go get him, bring him back, only for him to arrest Peacemaker, and maybe we end on a not so happy note, but with a cliffhanger of, okay, he's going back to prison, but he's more at peace with it because he's back in the world where he realizes this is actually who I am. This is who I can be. Because maybe the other thing is he'll live in this parallel world where everything's perfect for him, but he'll find that in himself, he doesn't think that it's actually like it's not what he wants. He wants to be able to have the heart to hearts with Adebayo. Even though he Harcourt may not say I love you back or have any feelings towards, he still likes being with that version of her. Uh Economos, Eagly. Maybe Eagly is like dead in this universe or something.
Ooh, that's a big one. That would definitely be a big one is Eagly.
So it's those things where I'm like, okay, that genuinely would it's all we're playing hypotheticals today with our with our reviews and what ifs, but that's kind of where
Yeah.
it is, and it's a hype thing. It's like, okay, I see them going here, and I could see an idea of this happening. I want to see it actually happen. I want to see this whole thing played out before I know. And I think that because we're on opposite sides of the spectrum with this. I'm really high on these first 2 episodes, also looking for the what if. You're lower on it, but it's because of the what if. You don't know and you can't see the clear picture until the end.
Yeah. Well, and I think moving out of the what ifs, because you're right, we're talking a lot about what ifs comparatively. Like we typically talk about what ifs, but I feel like not nearly as in depth. So moving back into what the actual happenings of these 2 episodes is. Look, I love Tim Meadows. I think Tim Meadows is a hilarious actor.
What is
Plays
Tim Meadows doing here?
he plays a very comedic cannibal in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's one of my favorite roles that he is. But I think he's a really good comedic actor. I find him so needlessly annoying in this, to be honest.
It's
I
just
think
pointless.
like I get that Peacemaker is all about its stupid, absurdist humor. The bird blindness joke, the second that was brought up, I was like, brother,
Like
that
why?
was the perfect example of a joke that was so like I'm fine with absurdist humor. There's a lot of absurdist humor in this that works for me. This is an example of when it doesn't work for me. I think it was a okay, cool. You kind of paid it off a little bit with the jokes of, oh, it's a duck. I don't know how big the bird is. I don't know what to. I don't know if I'm ever going to like. He plays Langston. Is the character's name? I just that did not work for me at all. He starts out. He's annoying. He's misogynistic. He's just calls a girl like her nickname is tits, and then you have whatever the other people's nicknames were. Like he's not meant to be likable at all, and I get that, but I don't know. I feel like they're adding elements into the character that just make me actively like not enjoy when he's on screen more than just finding him annoying like you're supposed to. Like a
Yeah.
good example is like Vigilante. Vigilante is needlessly annoying and ridiculous and nonsensical, but you can't help but like him. I don't see us feeling anything like that with Langston. I'm not saying we need to, but he has no redeeming qualities at
We we
all that make
we
me even enjoy watching him on screen, other than the fact that I like Tim Meadows.
we won't see a change. I think, but to be fair, and I'm not giving it credit. I'm not giving it by because I do agree with you on most of it. But it's Tim Meadows and he's playing a bit role. That's clearly what this is. And this bit role isn't going away anytime soon. He's gonna pop back up here and there to make a joke. And again, I thought some of the jokes were kind of funny. Like I do like the joke whenever he started nicknaming all of them. You're like, what the fuck? Why? And then after the girl goes down, he comes running out. Oh no, titties, get help! I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Why are you naming these people that? It's
Like
every single one of them has a horrible nickname. I'm like, come on, man.
it's very clearly meant to set him up as not likable, and he isn't. But I feel like it's just I don't want to call it one step too far. It just didn't work for me.
I get it. I do.
It's just like a personal thing. Moving on to another thing that I feel like we're going to be on the opposite end of the spectrum from where I really liked it, and I know you probably didn't, is the orgy scene.
No, here's what I will say. Can I go ahead and speak
Okay,
first on this?
I'll let you say your piece, but I have my thoughts on it.
It makes perfect sense in context and for the story. Don't quote me when I say this because it sounds very weird when I say it. I liked it because it built the story and it's exactly who Peacemaker is. Did I enjoy watching it? Not at all. Did it make sense for the story? And can I understand and acknowledge that and enjoy it from that perspective? Yes. But it was still very awkward. But that is exactly how Chris would crash out and sink, is just needless, senseless stuff like that. That's exactly how he is.
Well, and so I'm not going to take credit for this. This does come from our Lord and Savior Koijandro. But I will say I was thinking of it before even listening to this because I didn't realize that this week's episode of the DC Studios podcast was talking both episodes 1 and 2 of Peacemaker. So I just kind of listened to it all the way through while I was literally buying this wig. But one thing that they brought up that I feel like does work really well is I like you did mention like yes it makes sense for the context of the story, but the reason it makes sense for the context of the story is you have the whole thing with hardcore where she's throwing herself into the bar. She's very obviously throwing herself needlessly into circumstances that are going to get her into fights because she needs to feel that adrenaline. She needs to feel something
Right.
because her work was taken away from her. Peacemaker needs something very similar because he's also crashing out and falling out. He doesn't have his gang together. He's not going
Mm.
on missions with them anymore. Like, yes, they're still friends, but there's a disconnect there. There's some turmoil. He didn't get into the Justice Gang. That was a really big like negative for him. And so he already goes out and has his adrenaline rushes. He kills people, he throws
Right.
himself off of buildings, like things like that. So, how do you unwind in a way that is a crash out? Drugs and sex. We see him snorting coke. We see him smoking a bong. We see
Right.
him, which I don't know if you saw this, but I saw. I didn't watch the episode. But this came from that companion podcast, where John Cena he's never done any type of drug, in his life, and so he had to be taught how to properly do drugs to make that scene believable, where he's smoking the bong and snorting cocaine.
Sounds about
Um,
right.
so it makes total sense that this is where it would go. I will say, like I mentioned, that was probably the most dicks I've ever seen in a TV episode ever. I had no problem with it. I feel like it was over the top in a way that I felt was necessary. It definitely feels like this season of Peacemaker, and I'm just bringing this up now, not necessarily in the context of the orgy scene, but just in general.
Sure.
James Gunn is playing with the fact that he is the boss of DC and can do whatever he wants a lot more in this season than I feel like even in last season. And I feel like a
Right.
lot of that is good, but a lot of that also is you get more absurdist, you get more needless, you get more vulgar in a way, I guess.
Right.
That kind of it doesn't skirt the line, it straight up barrels through it. Um, so
Right.
I think like another scene, and I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
Would you be able to cut up your own body in order to save your own life?
No.
Yeah,
That
I
is
didn't
a
think so
that
because
is
that
a
was
hard scene, and it's really funny because Vidge is there. He's getting to hang out
he's
with his
having a
buddy,
grand old
and
time.
he's smiling as he's cutting up because he thinks he's hanging out with his buddy, and meanwhile, Chris is in the corner just like, "Oh my god, I can't do this. This is horrible." And that's why when the head falls out of the bag, you're like, "Oh no, don't pick it up. Please don't pick." Oh, and he picks it up. And he's looking at him like, "Oh my god." It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Um, but again, that's one of those scenes where it's like, nope, that's classic Peacemaker. That's funny because he's having a great time and he is clearly not. It's traumatic.
Yeah, yeah. I that was it was grotesque, it was gory, it was what it needed to be, but I feel like I could never. I don't know. It
No.
was like I couldn't do that to anyone, let alone myself. I think it's just a general I would never do that to a living creature ever.
Sure.
But especially like when he holds his own head in his hands,
And
like
he's just,
that's just such
yeah,
a
yeah.
like I'm really curious to see where that influences the dynamic that he has with his dad and brother in the other universe. Is the guilt of killing himself, like, is that what's going to lead to him being attacked by these, like, is that what this is it not going to be, we didn't even talk about this, but is it not the fact that it's his friends that don't have good lives that pushes him out? Is it the fact that they find out that he is not their peacemaker and they push him out? Because,
Well, it's also
like,
the matter of how do they find out? Would they genuinely find the body? Or because
he's
I don't think they would,
incinerated. I don't
it
think
isn't
so.
incinerated. Or is it genuinely the matter of a father can always tell, "You're my son, you're not my son." I think
Back to
that could be easily be a
a
thing.
Pixar movie from earlier this year that we reviewed on here. It's the thing of when Elio is the shapeshifter and they have those little shapeshifter thing, you have a whole line of dialogue of like family always knows.
Right.
Obviously, we've already seen them interact, and while they do notice that something is very much off, they chop it up to him being drunk. So I
Right.
am curious to see, will they find out? If so, how long does it take out?
Right.
Is it a thing of they clock immediately, but they sit on it like the Elio thing? Like,
Right.
where is that going to take us?
We
'Cause I
don't know, and it's part of the mystery, but I love it. That's genuinely something I'm
yeah.
very interested in finding out.
So you mentioned earlier that you think that this is like one of the best uses of the multiverse that we've seen like in general. Can you
Yeah.
touch a little bit more on like obviously we've touched on the multiversal elements of that, but like why? Like what of this works so well? Cuz I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but it
I
is
so
definitely an interesting use of it.
I'm not saying anything horrible about it. I loved No Way Home. I loved Deadpool and Wolverine, you know that. And I thought
Mhm.
Multiverse of Madness was okay. That being said, this is the first time we're using the multiverse on not such a grand scale, and it's purely for character building purposes. And it's on a much more heartwarming aspect rather than, oh, we're moving from one action set piece to the next in this big, grand, vast universe of unlimited possibilities. I think that it's just taking a different approach that I like and something that I genuinely wanted to see more from Marvel. Again, the closest thing we had was kind of No Way Home, where it was the Spider-Man who came in and they were there for a big character building moment, had some dialogue, had some fun, had some heartwarming scenes, and then one big action set piece at the end. I don't even think we're going to get one big action set piece at the end, really. We'll get action set pieces, but it won't be like at the end or at the sacrifice of, oh, it's here, it's the multiverse, we're going to have an action set piece.
Yeah.
It's purely for pushing Chris as a character. It's to give the audience something to go, wow, this universe is really beautiful, especially for him, but we know that this is not where he's supposed to be, yada, yada, yada. I just feel like it's a better use of it for that, especially if you're going to start introducing the multiverse this early in your universe. This is one of the better ways to do it because you're not jumping straight to the big action set piece like Marvel has. I think part of the reason why Marvel has a hard time selling the multiverse to other people is because once you go big, you can't go under. You can't go little with it.
Yeah.
You have to top that big every time. And with No Way Home, they made a big bar to hit that some films haven't really been able to cross. Multiverse of Madness tried to. They brought back Professor X. They brought in John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. They did all of these things, but they've already gone so big that even though those are big things, it's not as big as Tobey Maguire coming in or Andrew Garfield coming in. So wrapping it together, I'm saying I think this is the best use of it because it's something that we haven't seen before, but they're also starting on a much smaller basis than going as big as they can. Because if you're doing a multiversal story with DC, correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest one you want to tell is Injustice. And if you start with Peacemaker going to war with this multiversal world with himself, or this or that, or all these multiversal worlds are coming to attack his universe because it has this specific thing, that's not going to work. You can't do that because then when you get to an Injustice type story, you've already seen that, and you've already gotten to a point where it's like, okay, well, what is something new that you're offering me? So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's what I mean when I say that that's the usage of it.
Well, and I think this is kind of what you're getting at. And I actually do agree with this, is that this is very small scale. You're starting the biggest and most, I don't want to say complicated, but like it is complex and complicated, like story plot lines in the terms of introducing an infinite universe. And you're doing it in such a, let's call it nonchalant way, because the way that the multiverse in the MCU is introduced is very big. It's very not from the start, it's very built on over time,
Yeah.
in done in a very like grandiose way, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like you don't
Right.
really introduce the multiverse of madness really until Doctor Strange, WandaVision, Loki, like those are the first times where you really start, and that's years, years
Right.
and years and years
Right.
into the MCU, and they do it in a way that feels very big at a like multiversal level scale.
Right.
With this, it's very much a we're throwing you right in immediately, no holds bar. There is a multiverse. Um, we're gonna start you out in a way that feels so natural because the whole thing on why there is this parallel dimension thing is because John's or Chris's dad is just a super genius and makes this rift, but like everyone else has all these other rifts, and it feels like just such a natural element of this world that you're throwing us into just right off the bat, I guess. So
Yeah.
I do agree that I wouldn't necessarily say this is like the best use. I think it's the best introduction to the multiverse. I'm gonna hold back on saying it's the best use of the multiverse until we kind of
Until
see where they
right,
go
until
with
the
it,
end.
either
Right.
at the end of this season or even as they continue into the just general grander multiverse. But I will agree, it is definitely a really good introduction because we're already this is technically the third property that takes place. You have Creature
Yes.
Commandos, Peacemaker, and Superman. Those are the only three currently released canon things to this universe, like this universe, not the grander DC multiverse, but this universe.
4 if you count the Suicide Squad, because
I guess,
technically
yeah. No, you do. No, you're right. It is four. The Suicide Squad does count. So yeah.
so I let's go back. Let's go back and talk about other things. I like the way they use Vigilante in these first 2 episodes. Episode 1, he's barely in it, and he's mostly like used for a joke, and it's because the dishwasher guy who like jokes with him in the first season is now like the
Yeah.
manager. It was funny, but they really didn't do a lot with him. Episode 2, he shines a lot more. He gets moments to be the endearing, loving vigilante that we know, but he also gets moments to just, genuinely be, he has a heart to heart connection kind of with Chris to a certain extent. Uh, which again, we're going to see more of him as the series goes on. This is definitely not. I don't like the way they start Vigilante off in this series before over season 1. I think he's a lot better in season 1. But he also
You think
had
he's better in season one?
I think his introduction is so far been better in season 1.
Okay.
Um,
I would agree.
but also at the same time, that's kind of a hard complaint to go with because he doesn't need an introduction at this point. We know who he is. It's just how are they wrapping him into the story? I feel like they've wrapped everybody else into the story pretty well except for him. And it's not in a negative way. They'll find a way to wrap him in, especially now that he's the only one who knows what the portal is, that there is the multiverse, that he literally sawed another version of Peacemaker in half. Like he knows that. That's how he'll probably come back into the fold into the story. But of the 4 members of technically 5 of the 5 members of the team, he's definitely the one where I'm like, okay, you didn't give him as much, but I can see you're building towards something with him. Because again, they give Hardcore a lot. They're giving Economos a lot. They definitely give Adebayo a lot. He is the only outlier where it's like, okay, you probably could have done more with him, but I get why you're not because you just gave him an important piece of information that you're going to give him later as a
Yeah,
thing
I
to do.
I definitely agree with you that his introduction in season one is a lot better than his introduction in season one. I do want to touch on the Adebayo thing.
Yeah,
I do find it very interesting where they're going with that story. Obviously, the whole like it's a divorce. You have the whole like her going back, and it's like it's not just a break. Like Adebayo thought it was just a break. It's very clearly not just a break.
right.
I I'm curious to see where they go with this plot line because there's obviously two outcomes. One, they reconvene out of bio, they come back together, they're happy, they what's the word I'm looking for? They reconcile, that's it. That is option 1. Option 2 is Adebayo moves on. She gets over it. Either she finds someone else or realizes that she doesn't need her.
Right.
Something like that. I'm hoping they go with option 2. I'm hoping they go with the Adebayo like moves on, becomes independent, has success with bringing the band back together or
Sure.
something like that. Just because with the way that they've already set up the relationship, I don't care about them together all that much. So I would rather just Adebayo be able to stand on her own. I love
Right.
Adebayo as a character, even though I can't remember her name for whatever reason. I think she has very good presence, very good comedic elements. She brings some heart to the story. I do like what they did with her relationship in season one. I just think that the way that I would prefer that they end this is one, probably about halfway through this season, and then you never bring it up again. But I don't think they're gonna do that. And have it be Adebayo's like, you know what? I got my friends. I got something going for me. I'm just gonna be me. I don't need no woman. Like being her own person.
Sure.
That would be my like preference. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I could see it going either way. I like the idea of her being an independent person. I also like the idea of them reconciling at the end. I think if they go that route, it's been done before, so it's not necessarily the most compelling story to tell. Secondly, I don't know how you would fit that into the overall narrative beyond, okay, let's just put it in at the end so that it, does whatever. The only thing that I could say is that she kind of has like a change of heart when she's in this parallel universe and she sees who she becomes without her, or like in this parallel universe never had gotten married to the person that she loves, and so it might make her want to go back to the universe. I could see that. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it because I could see it either way. I like the idea of her going back to being an independent person and just saying bye, bitch, see ya. But I mean, I'm really good with it either way. I just need to see where they take it in the story. And again, I trust James Gunn to do it right. So
Well, because I think the reason why I want to see Adebayo like kind of stand on her own is not only because I like Adebayo as a character, but I also just hate her wife and the way that she handles things and leaves things. Because look, I understand it to a degree. Like Adebayo is going against the plans that they made together. Adebayo is very much not necessarily thinking about her wife when she's making decisions. I understand all of that. I think that they build that very well in season 1, and
right,
they don't really reconcile that at the season 1, so it makes sense that this is where that would lead.
sure.
So I don't have a problem with any of that, and again, I do think that her wife has some, or I guess ex-wife, has a justifiable reason to be angry. I just think she's a little bit, like,
I think
too
it's kind of. I
about
think
things,
it. I think it's
like
just kind of you. It's put there because they need to give Adebayo stakes, so she has an arc at the end of this. Because at the end of season one, her arc is kind of complete, and I guarantee you, with season two, what they found was they didn't have much for her to do beyond being Chris's friend, which is fine. But they wanted to give her something so that she doesn't end up
w
being just
and
there for the journey.
you brought up about, oh, is Adebayo gonna like go into the multiverse and realize that is an interesting thought in terms of we already brought up like what are the other versions of them going to be like in this world,
Sure.
and I guess I wonder how big a part them interacting with their counterparts is going to play in their individual character arcs, because again, every single one of them has an arc that we've set up. Vigilante, I
Yeah.
guess, lesser so. Vigilante didn't really set up any big major individual arc for him, unless I'm
Sure.
forgetting something. But you have Economos in betraying his friends. You have Adebayo in her wife. You have Hardcore in her being hardcore. You have Chris and his struggle with his identity and where he is in life and finding a home. And
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
we obviously know that Chris going to the other world is going to play a factor in his arc. Are the others going to go and have interactions with their counterparts? And is that going to be what concludes their arc? I don't know.
Right.
I could see them going that direction, but
And I look, and I, as much as I don't think they're going into the multiverse, if Frank, or I almost said Frank Senior, Rick Flag Senior, Frank Grillo's the actor's name.
mhm.
That's why I'm like saying that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
Rick Flag Senior does go into the multiverse, I think that is a perfect opportune moment for you to put Rick Flag Jr. in there, and for him to have one last interaction with his son, which even fuels that rage even more against Peacemaker,
or helps him reconcile it and
or
he
helps
talks him down. Like that's
helps him reconcile.
also a
Yeah.
possibility. Unless you have anything else, I don't want to wrap up. I want to talk about one more thing before we wrap up. Is there anything else you want to cover before I bring up one more thing?
I don't think I have any more to cover, but go ahead and talk about the other thing.
So my one last thing is simply just the intro, the dance sequence at the beginning.
It's
Um,
fun. It's cute.
I I really enjoy it. I really liked the dance sequence from season 1 just because, like, granted, I knew that it was coming before I watched it because I watched it years later, but, like,
Right.
for the time, it was so unexpected. So
Right.
how do you play on that knowing that they are going to do it the second time? And I don't necessarily think that they, like, outdo themselves. I do think it's on a very similar level. I think
Sure.
my one, like, minor complaint, I guess, and it's just how much they give away. Obviously, it's just a dance sequence, like, you're not really seeing scenes, but, like, they do show you characters in the intro that I did not know were going to be in this season. I think the biggest one being Judo Master. Um, I I understand that, like, oh, well, that's just what an intro is. Like, think of an anime intro, for instance. Like, it gives you clips from the show, and or like even go back to like OG Disney. Like the one that comes to mind right now is like Good Luck Charlie. They had like the picture frames with all the scenes. Like, it's not like intros don't typically give away things. I just feel like in this one specifically, like, I can skip the Good Luck Charlie intro and feel like I'm not missing anything. I can skip a intro to an anime and feel like I'm missing nothing because this is such an absurdist, cool to watch, like, dance sequence. I don't want to skip it, especially the first time. But then you're basically giving up your opportunity to be surprised in any way, seeing certain characters come in. Like, if you did not know that um Chris's dad was going to come back and play a role in this season, or that his brother was going to come back, or any of that going in. Like, if you went in with zero knowledge of what season 2, you don't even find that out naturally. You find it out through the intro.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked the opening. I don't have much to say about it because I think it's really cool. And I'm sure there's like a lot of inside things that at the end of the season we're all gonna like look at and go, oh, that actually was pretty cool because this also is this and whatnot. I think that it's fun. I think that it's really cute. And I could tell they were very passionate about making it because they really wanted to do it apparently. But I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So
Yeah. No, but I think to wrap up my thoughts on season 2 of Peacemaker, I don't necessarily think my enjoyment has increased all that much talking about it. I do think it's given me a lot more hope for the direction that they can take
sure.
season 2 and the ways that they can rope me back in. Again, I don't think it's bad by any means. I think that where they have set
Sure.
up already, even without talking about it, had me intrigued as to where they can go. I do just have to admit there are certain elements of it that aren't working for me as much as I would have wanted it to,
Sure.
which is
Right.
why I am probably lower than especially yourself, but then probably even just most on where they are setting up with the direction that they're going and what we've gotten so far.
Sure. I am slightly the opposite, and it's I don't think that my view just by talking about it, I've like diminished in my excitement for it. I still feel about as hyped as I was. I think James Gunn did a good job inviting us back into this world with the slight changes that he did make. I think it still is the tone of that first season, while at the same time, the writing has definitely improved in some regards. And it seems like there is a more thought out plot and that there is like some exciting things to come. Like I know he already talked about how there's like some characters at the end of the show, maybe not the exact last episode, but there's reveals that are going to come that you're going to be like, oh, that's really cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
Um, it's things like that where I'm like, okay, it's more thought out. He had more time to write it, to prepare for it, and so it just makes me excited for the rest of the season. Um, But again, I'm biased. I really enjoy Peacemaker. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I do like how they're incorporating it into the wider world. I think one thing we didn't touch on all that much, but I don't know how much we would really have to say about it, would be like the whole Justice Gang scene and the
yeah,
interactions with Maxwell Lord and the in Hawk Girl and in Green Lantern. And
sure.
I think that just got me more excited to get more of those characters because
Sure.
they're very clearly not the Justice League. Not only are they not called the Justice League, but their attitudes are not very Justice League. Now, getting into a little bit more speculation, it makes me very interested to see what happens when we do inevitably get a Justice League.
Right.
Hawkgirl doesn't really need to be a part of the Justice League. Hawkgirl is a
No.
character that is not intrinsically related to that. She is in renditions of the Justice League, do not get me wrong, but she's not in all of them.
Right.
However, Green Lantern is. Green Lantern is like when you think of you have Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Green Lantern. Like those are some of your four main characters of the Justice League.
Right.
Just like how in the Avengers you have Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Captain America. Like it's very similar in that nature. I think it's very clear that this Green Lantern and the way that they've set him up is probably not going to be the Green Lantern that joins the Justice League.
No, and I've said for a while that I think that my theory with Guy Gardner, as much as I like Nathan Fillion in the role, and I'm gonna be sad if you put Nathan Fillion in the role and then kill him off, is that I do think Guy Gardner is probably gonna die in Lanterns in some way. I don't think he's gonna be a villain. I think he's gonna die protecting somebody.
Like, he's gonna have a redemption arc of he's been a jackass this whole time. He doesn't
Right.
care as much as he should, and then turns out he does care and then dies for
Or
something.
or
Okay,
I could be
I didn't
completely
really.
wrong. I could be completely wrong, and
Yeah,
he could still be a part of the Justice League or Justice Gang later on. I just think it makes more logical sense that if you write him out, it has to be through death, especially because he is the way that he is. The only other thing I could see is that in Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan are basically tasked with, "Hey, you're actually going to protect Earth now," and Guy Gardner is going to go protect somewhere else, and we're just moving him around. We're moving Lanterns around, I guess. I've also seen the idea that Guy Gardner dies, and that's how John Stewart picks up the ring. It's Guy Gardner's ring. I've thought about that being the possibility because I know that that's how Green Lanterns kind of, their stories kind of told, and that's how they kind of pick up the rings.
mm,
So there's various different options. It's all speculation. We'll see what happens. But those are my thoughts on Peacemaker. I like it.
yeah.
I like it a lot.
So we'll be covering Peacemaker every single week. So look out for that. We'll be covering each and just like we did with Twisted Metal, except for obviously because of Anime NYC, I wasn't able to be here, and with technically Peacemaker or episode 1 of season 2. But going forward, we'll be covering every single episode of Peacemaker every week. You'll be able to see my thoughts, hopefully change in a positive way, and hopefully not see Carson's thoughts change in a negative way. Um, but next week, on top of an episode of Peacemaker, we determine that we will be covering Caught Stealing. We'll be giving our review of Caught Stealing. It does release this weekend. However, I still have not seen it. I might see it this weekend just because it's Labor Day. But I do typically like to have the movies a little fresher in my head, so I might just wait. We'll see how the cards fall. But yeah, it'll be Peacemaker episode 3 of season 2 and Caught Stealing. So look out for that. Carson, is there anything you want to say as we round down this episode?
No.
Thank you for being very helpful, Carson. Very, very helpful. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. That has been another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast. You can find us on all podcast hosting platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, every single week. You can find us on all social media platforms: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Carson, I found out that not only do we have 8 followers on Facebook, we have regulars that actively comment on our Facebook that I did not realize and I did not respond to until last night when I was checking. So shout out to the 8 homies on Facebook, because if you did not know, whenever you upload a short to Instagram, it pretty much auto uploads to
Yeah.
Instagram, Threads, and Facebook Reels. So shout out to you 8 homies and active commenters on Facebook. We post 3-minute reviews. Carson's going to be talking about Halloween Horror Nights. I have a few anime that I'm going to be talking about today and always. Carson talks a lot about WWE on there, so keep an eye out for that. Again, at Nerdy Nimrods, next week, talking about Peacemaker, and we're talking about caught stealing. But that's next week. This is this week. And for this week, what I gotta say, stay nerdy.